Hello, everybody. Welcome to the sixth episode of Ringside Heat Wayback. I am your host, Jose Taboada, alongside the legendary John Dawson. You can find John at at John Dawson Music on social media, and you can find me on social media at Taboada93. Happy Thursday, everybody. Hope you enjoyed our talk on episode 5. It's been a fun little week here. So now we are getting right back into, well, at least recording wise, pulling back the curtain. We are another week for us to get to record a new batch of episodes and carry on from there. And today is it's a long title, and I know that this happens along the way. So Lex, if you're hearing these headlines are need to be worked on. But today's episode is called "A Dynamite and Impactful Week of Wrestling Entertainment in the Major Leagues." Take that as you will. Alan Khan of STLDWrestling.com and panels on Sauga 960 AM PL Matters drops in to talk about the latest rumors and theories about WWE, and the complete ring crew weighs in on WWE releases and AEW successes. So when we capped off episode 5, I told John, get ready for these set of releases, because I know your eyes are gonna be peaks of interest here due to some of the comments you were saying in earlier episodes. So what are you looking forward to about this episode? What's your vibe going into this episode?
Well, I stayed away from the releases. I didn't revisit. I didn't remind myself. There was a lot of those happening in those days, so I don't remember the order. So I stayed away from all that. I have no idea. I vaguely remember. No, I don't. Yeah, I don't really have anything else to say about that. I stayed away from the releases, so I'm looking forward to hearing what the news was, the rumors. Yeah, again, same thing.
I mean, it's another interview, so which I'm really excited about. That's what I'm looking forward to, and see what their perspective is here. So, but yeah, the rumors around.
Yeah, like
June,
around who?
I
Around
don't
June
know.
20. That's 21 now.
So this is our first episode, originally aired June 5th, 2021. So our 1 month of Ringside Heat down. Many more to go. 72 months. No, not 72, but 73 months to go, whatever it
Yeah.
is.
Yeah, I don't even know what was on the landscape. I don't
So
remember. So much has happened, obviously.
it looks like we're about to be surprised. So John,
All right.
ready to go?
Ready to go.
Let's get to it.
800-volt architecture in the Kia EV6. Charge your battery from 10 to 80% in as little as 18 minutes, as fast as it takes to have a cup of coffee. And today, your EV6 adds excitement with up to 570.
The views expressed in the following program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of Sauga 960 AM or its management.
Yep.
It's the weekend, and you know what that means. Ringside Heat is on the air on New Stock Sauga 960 AM. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Lex Tan, and we've got a packed show for you today. Our guest is a writer on SLTDWrestling.com and wrestling podcaster Alan Khan. And the complete ring crew returns to give their thoughts on this tumultuous week in the world of wrestling. Listen more on tonight's episode of Ringside Heat. We'll be right back.
No radio? No problem. Stream us live on sauga960am.ca.
Ringside Heat on Newstalk Sauga 960 AM. I'm your host, Lex Tan. Thank you for tuning in and logging on. It is such a pleasure and privilege to be chatting with you right now. This week, we had 4 of the major promotions that are running shows right now making waves in the industry. Some of it good, some of it bad, but let's talk about the good about what happened in Impact Wrestling this week. So, let me tell you something.
Let me tell you something, brother.
There's a reason why you don't see a lot of Iron Man matches in any company.
Yes.
It's an insanely difficult match to participate in. But an absolute master class was conducted in Impact Wrestling this Thursday by a Filipino brethren, TJP, and a Toronto brethren, Josh Alexander, in an Iron Man match for the X Division Championship, a title held by guys like Samoa Joe, AJ Styles, Petey Williams, and Rob Van Dam. Not only do you need the physical endurance to go in an Iron Man match, you have to be aware of how you're building the match creatively. You need to be so ingrained in your wrestling aptitude and knowledge while staying in character and being aware of the time and the response from fans and how you're going to build up to the climax as the timer inches closer to zero. You have to make sure that you have a referee who is in sync with you. And they did have that with Brian Hebner, one of my favorite referees from the beginning of my wrestling fandom. And when you watch that match, you'll see his great work. Let's flash back a few years, back when WWE first signed TJP. I hadn't heard of him until Chico pointed out to me that a Filipino guy had become the Cruiserweight champion. Dude is an amazing wrestler, and I loved his 8-bit Nintendo-themed entrance with a knockoff of Dr. Wily's theme from Mega Man 2. I was proud that another wrestler of Filipino descent was making waves on the biggest stage of them all, the first since Dave Batista. And on that note, I'm also proud of Shotzi Blackheart and Caden Carter, who are making NXT must-see TV. Admittedly, it was also tough seeing TJ Perkins stuck in WWE limbo and eventually let go, wishing that he could have had more chances with NXT rather than 205. But sometimes a certain stage may not be right for you, and at that moment, maybe 205 wasn't right for him. Fast forward to last Thursday. He's now in Impact Wrestling, facing Toronto's Josh Alexander for the X Division Championship. Alexander, who's been wrestling now for 16 years while also doing construction work to help pay bills and feed his family, never gave up on his dream of being a wrestler. And he got the chance to work with so many of what has become this generation's rising and established stars. And now he was getting a shot with one of the more established companies in pro wrestling, managed by two guys who know how to run a wrestling promotion in Scott D'Amore and Don Callis. There was synergy. There was magic, and it was a clinic. It's a match that's been universally and critically acclaimed by fans and professionals alike, being touted as a possible match of the year candidate among all the North American promotions. John of the Ring Crew has told me that a lot of this business is timing. And as Canada and the United States start to see hope of normalcy again, this match may lead to something bigger for Impact, for TJP, and for Josh Alexander. And years after all the struggles that have plagued Impact, just maybe this match could be a turning point that Double J, Hulk Hogan, Eric Bischoff, Dixie Carter, and even Billy Corgan were searching to achieve. Will it lead to something bigger for TJP and Josh? It remains to be seen. But I can guarantee that they'll be getting the highest showing of respect when fans are back for Slammiversary. A standing ovation.
And that's the bottom line, because Stone Cold said so.
When we come back, podcaster Alan Can joins the show when we return with Ringside Heat on News Talk Sauga 960 AM.
Big fan of that monologue.
Yeah, it was really good.
The one thing I've noticed about Lex, and this is a trait of him. This is a good trait of him. He likes to make it dramatic. He has a flair for the dramatic, and
Yes.
and with these monologues that he started to bring back. Actually, the last couple of episodes we've seen some monologues again.
We literally just listened to one yesterday.
We heard one for the taping of this week's episode, of this past week's episode 135. But like the pauses and the to make sure that you grasp every word. It's something. It's something that's more of like he wants to make sure that you hold on to every word, and he just wants to make sure that he means it, right? Which like I think like no matter what, even if he didn't put on the dramatic tone, like it would know that he means it. But it's just so funny. The pauses and
his cadences, everything.
Cadence, it always stuck out to me of our dear fearless leader, Mr. Tan.
Yeah, I wonder who he models that after. I should ask him about that.
That's a good question. I feel like he kind of just does it on his own. I feel like that's his mindset.
There's got to be somebody he's listened to.
Maybe, but I also know that like when it comes to his commentary, he wants to make sure that he gets it right. He wants to make sure that he showcases it. So I feel like that's an example of that, which again, it's great. It's not a bad thing to say, right? Because again, we want to find our ways to show that we can do something by testing different things in the water. And I think that's that for Lex. But no, it's a very, very, very solid monologue there. And do you still believe that, John? Wrestling's about timing?
Yeah, I don't know what the context was, if that meant in ring or in general in terms of your career trajectory. Two things about that. I'm was sad about TJP as well. I was happy that this happened.
Oh, for sure.
Although I didn't watch that match. And Josh Alexander, that's not the same Josh Alexander that did the WWE backstage stuff, was it?
That's what I'm wondering. That's what I'm trying to figure out. Uh, I don't know. I don't remember Josh Alexander, which may be because he has a lot of history in Impact. Yeah. There was nothing in WWE. No. So
I don't know why I always got that confused. Well, obviously it's the same name, but I kept thinking like, wow, did he just like jump from the the news updates on Raw to being a wrestler at Impact? I don't know.
No,
No, this is a different dude.
it's a different one. Yeah.
And I knew that, but there was a long time where I was just like, is that the same guy?
Imagine that a commentator turned wrestler just on the spot.
Hey man,
I mean,
until I actually saw the guy, I was just kind of like,
we've seen wrestler to commentator. There's a lot of examples: Baron Sexton, Corey Graves, Michael Cole. But I'm kidding, definitely not Michael Cole. But yeah, no, it's yeah, you're right. TJP. Was it a smooth exit from WWE? I don't think so.
It was a very quiet one. I don't recall there being much. Like he was just kind of gone.
I feel like
I don't even remember the announcement.
Not to accidentally speculate things or cause like a little bit of earth, but I feel like it wasn't the best of exits in terms of like happiness or satisfaction. I don't know.
Or was he just collateral damage from like 205 itself collapsed in what 18, 19?
It didn't. Maybe earlier, maybe 18.
Because I saw it. Yeah, because we saw it in 27. We were at a taping because they did it after SmackDown.
I saw it at Survivor Series. I believe I saw a 205 match, a cruiserweight title match, on the Survivor Series pre-show in 2016.
Yeah, so I wonder if he was just kind of collateral damage from all that. I don't know.
All right, let's get back to this. Let's get to the interview.
Stream us live at sauga960am.ca.
Welcome back to Ringside Heat on News Talk Sauga 960 AM. I'm your host, Lex Tan. You can follow me at Lex Tan Media on Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, and TikTok. You can also interact with us on the show at Ringside_Heat on those same social media platforms. And I'm joined today by our guest who's lived here in Mississauga for about 30 years now. He's got
still do stuff on
community
Snapchat?
issues, and of course,
say it again.
Are we still on Snapchat?
We have an account, but I haven't been using Snapchat. I will admit that. But to be fair though, even on my personal Snapchat, it's a dead app. It's
I know. That's what made me laugh. I'm like, that is one that stood out. Like, I don't think people use that anymore.
This is
only 3 years ago.
Yeah, it was a very popular app, but then I think once Instagram introduced its stories and then
that was the end of that.
I think that's where the collapse began. But that's a good piece of history there, everybody. It still exists, but I will admit that it's not a channel I go to when we're
not one of the prongs in our social media.
No,
or one of our plans.
Definitely not.
All right.
Biggest reason why he's here, he's got a love for professional wrestling. He's a regular panelist on other Sauga 960 AM shows, such as The Weekly Show with Ryan Gurcharn and Peel Matters. He's a frequent contributing writer to SLTDWrestling.com, and he just started his own wrestling podcast, Cantastic Wrestle Corner, which you can download on Google Podcasts, Anchor, and Spotify. And you can reach him on Twitter at The Cantastic with a K. The Cantastic. Alan Can, welcome, and thank you for joining us here on Ringside Heat, my friend.
Lex, I am so glad to be on your show and to be.
Sorry, I gotta admit, just a split second, I thought that was Steve.
Yeah, they do sound a little similar.
I thought that was Steve for a split. No offense, Alan.
I don't have no offense either way there.
Yeah. It's a compliment. If anything,
there's a similar timbre for sure.
Yeah,
Alan's joined
here
us
for the first time ever. I'm really happy that
on some Twitter Spaces we've done. He's jumped in. He's jumped in on a couple things.
I forgot we did Twitter Spaces too.
Yeah, we did a couple of those.
Yeah,
locally based wrestling show in Mississauga and the area. So I'm really glad to be here.
Oh, great! I'm great to have you here. It's great to have you here in English. So here's the thing: we could have talked about. I give you a whole bunch of topics that we could have talked about, but I think the thing that kind of overtakes everything in this week of wrestling news is the releases that the WWE has made. The list of big names, actually: Aleister Black, Braun Strowman, Lana, Buddy Murphy, Ruby Riott, and Santana Garrett. And this kind of adds to the original batch of high profile stars like Samoa Joe and Mickey James, who were let go after WrestleMania. So, I want to get your initial thoughts on the releases and the names that got released.
I thought it was a joke. I thought at first it was somebody pranking me or somebody pulling a rib, for example. Honestly, lately I think WWE has been doing a lot of releases, and it's gotten to a point where at first it was shocking, but then it's kind of sad, and you have to kind of accept it because the programming of WWE has been very lackluster lately, and they're just not finding enough either time or the effort to book or put these people into a compelling storyline. But this latest list was it's baffling to me because if you happen to be not watching the show right now, some of the names on this list, these people were just on TV as of just last week, even
Right.
Just so recently. You brought up, I don't know if you brought up this name, Aleister Black.
Yes.
Well, as of just a few weeks ago, he was back on WWE programming in a sort of a new storyline, portraying some kind of I don't know how to describe it, some kind of dark presence in his life, and he just kind of made this re-entry
I feel like that
onto
shouldn't
TV.
be. Sorry, I'm just going to be a jerk here. I feel like that shouldn't be surprised that his character involves darkness with a name like Aleister Black, but
It must, unless it was like a complete like another revamp to to the character. But yeah, it's like
he's kind of always had that vibe, right? Like
tone to it. Yeah,
the guy never came out saying I'm a hugger. Yeah.
No.
Anyways,
But there's your first name right there. That since again you were looking for the list of names there, so
yeah. Now
Aleister Black.
that's quite a list.
Yeah.
Wow, that was a big batch.
Apparently, it was good feud with the former Intercontinental Champion Big E.
Right. Exactly.
As for Braun Strowman, he is literally the mold as what a Vince McMahon wants in a wrestler.
That's exactly what I was going to say.
I'm like, why? How? What? I'm just like spouting these words as in just expressing the state of shock I'm in. Why would you release this man? Like, first of all, Black, as I said, he was on TV. Why would you just let him go after your writers take all this time to book him into a program?
Mm-hmm.
It's like the left hand does not know what the right hand is doing. So it's just that baffling to me. And as for the rest of those names, I'm sad because they're extremely talented people. I've seen them wrestle. They're great workers, and they don't deserve what happened to them.
It's true. And, and I'd like to expand a little bit more about Aleister Black. Now, he did release a statement on his social media, and it was a very gracious and classy statement about his release and everything. And it makes him look really, really good in this industry, especially when there have people that have been released that have not looked good, particularly, let's say, a Ryback or something like that. Now, what would you say about the statement that Aleister Black gave on his social media about everything?
I thought his statement was very classy, and I have a lot of respect for wrestlers who kind of take the high road, or able to take the high road, or take things in a more positive direction rather than some of the other names you've mentioned. He mentioned that Paul Heyman, for example, really went to bat for him, and that he actually expressed his ideas to Vince McMahon, who a lot of people in the internet wrestling community really hate on for what WWE is like now. But I think there's another side to the perception of Vince McMahon, and that he actually does listen to talent, and when you have a good idea to present to him, he does listen and he does try to move things along. This, at the end of the day, it just comes down to financial considerations versus how you script the talent. And as I said, the left hand probably didn't know what the right hand was doing at this point. It's just one of those decisions. But unfortunately, it does come down to Vince McMahon's decision, and I don't know how he would go from praising someone, or maybe in the back just secretly praising Aleister Black for coming up with compelling ideas to put him back on television, and then ultimately deciding to let him go. This is like one of those situations where it's, at the end of the day, these are decisions made internally that we can all only speculate. And some of us out there who have more experience, having maybe worked in the professional wrestling field, have more opinions to offer on. But as a fan, it's just really confusing at this time. There's a lot of speculation out there, Lex, that WWE is making these decisions because they're planning to sell. And that to me is probably the most shocking opinion coming out of this, that this company which has lasted in various incarnations in 70 plus years of professional wrestling history, Vince McMahon would be willing to sell this company that basically has belonged to his family his entire life. That's crazy.
And that's something that actually I would love to expand a little bit upon in the next segment. We're going to take a short break here on Ringside Heat. News Talk Sauga 960, sitting here with Alan Can of SLTDWrestling.com. And we'll be back with more from Alan after this.
Oh boy, I mean, I'm curious to see how that segment would go, because we've spoke about in past episodes of Wayback, and even on the main show itself, about the idea of Vince selling. Obviously it happened. It's under TKO, and now Vince is 100% gone after he sold his last set of shares a couple weeks back from the time of this recording. So, it's funny that it wasn't too long ago where we're still kind of going, yeah, okay, like he would never do that. It's Vince McMahon, and
It was unthinkable. Yeah.
And I mean, obviously, the one thing I hate though is that, and maybe I'm wrong here, but if with the news surrounding McMahon, I feel like if the news never came out, I think he would still be there, because I know it was a factor.
Oh yeah. I think I think that's probably true.
Which again, I don't like saying, because the situation is such a dire state, but it's almost I don't want to say relieving. I don't know what the right words here is, with without
No, I know
accent
what you're saying.
disrespectful, but like it's just, it's good that he's gone for good, basically is what I'm trying to say. I hate that it like all the things that happened led up to that moment. That's why, but it is a relief that he's gone. Yeah, it's hard to even be thankful for the guy for all that he's done with wrestling in our fandoms, but yeah, it's again, it's just funny that, again, still not too long ago, it sounded like a joke for him to sell.
It was almost dismissed out of hand. Like,
Right.
yeah, right. Vince isn't. That wasn't even as serious. That was like somebody just hot taking this whole thing.
Yeah.
Vince is gonna sell. Like, really? But
And-
however, I'm not a business guy, and I don't really know how let's fire a bunch of people means you're getting ready to sell. I don't
I
know
agree.
that. I don't understand that link, how those two conflate. But
I feel like again, I'm not a business person either, but I feel like they connect because you have all your assets, and you want to show your value of the company to try to get that selling point, like get that
maybe you want to make
and
your
maybe
margins
more.
look better or something. I don't
Yeah,
know.
it looks better. Like, hey, look, we're saving money here. Like, look how much money you can save if blah blah blah. I don't know. You're right though.
I just don't get it. It's like, okay, maybe it does, but given that the sale was still a couple years away at this point, but I'm sure wheels were starting to move. Like, these kinds of sales don't happen
I don't know if they were, to
overnight.
be honest. I know they
Maybe
don't
not.
happen
Maybe
overnight,
not.
but I
You
feel
know,
like, again, we'll never know the behind the scenes. But it honestly feels like, and from what I remember when the sale happened, that it happened in a blink of an eye. But again, that's just because it was reported. When was a realistic like time period when like they legitimately started thinking? I can't remember if that was reported or not, but
I don't think anyone would have known. There would have been
that's
so
what I'm saying.
much
Yeah,
in the way of like NDAs, and this conversation would have been so quiet that it is. What I'm saying is, it is possible. Sure, maybe it's possible these things link. what I'm more curious, I'm watching how it works now. I'm thinking, is it more like we got to let a bunch of people go? Because I think this logic really clued in now, because we just had a couple more releases after 40, right?
But they were very minor compared to
They were
like
minor, but the idea, it sounds like, is more to have play money for the people, for the contract renewals and people coming up,
maybe.
to be ready to hang on to the ones, these guys are the ones, or girls are the ones that we're hanging the company on this coming season.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't see Braun in the picture. We don't see Black in the picture. So would rather have that money there to sweeten the pot and maybe save a little, but sweeten the pot for somebody like a Roman Reigns or whoever's contract might have been coming up, right?
Yeah.
That feels a little more logical than some, backroom plot to sell the company, that they just wanted a little bit more leverage. Not leverage, but more breathing room, so that they could sweeten the pot. Because AEW, again, at this point, is now a legit threat.
Yes.
Right. And if Tony Khan can just throw money at anybody, well, they got to have some, and he did. They got to make sure they got something in the bank for if a Finn Balor or whoever that they might be looking at for the coming year. And again, I have no idea whose contracts were in what state at this point. But do you know what I'm saying? I think it feels, yeah.
And it's funny because like those that got released that day or that past week, most of them went to AEW anyway. I mean, now that they spoke about it, let me say it out in the open. Braun Strowman, Lana, Murphy, Ruby Riott, Santana Garrett, and Aleister Black.
So, I mean, you could then kind of go, okay, well, that may not be a coincidence. And maybe WWE, that it sounds more like a Vince thing to go, all right, well, you're talking to these guys, screw you, you're fired. You know what I mean? Like, it could have been that simple. You don't think he didn't know that if there might have been a conversation happening, he would have known about that? Maybe not. I don't know.
I don't know. I do want to get
Anyways,
back.
I'm just saying there feels like there's a few other reasons. It's just hilarious that they're getting ready to sell. They're firing people. They're getting ready to sell. I'm like, okay, there could be a couple other reasons.
I also want to quickly say, and again, I've said this in the past, and I've had people kind of brush me off and say it's not fair, but I mean, it could have very well been a booking storyline issue that maybe there literally was nothing, or they weren't sure what to do, and not that it justifies the release, because yes, everybody should have a job and jobs are important, but I kind of get it from that perspective, if that is a perspective. I completely understand that if you want to let go of somebody because you just don't see anything for them, or there's no plan to set something up for somebody. A lot of people always said, just book them there. It's easy. Like, you can find spots when this is dumb. And you're not in the writer's room, because sometimes these things are planned like months in advance, and stories are planned like so deep ahead, especially with like maybe the side stories or everything that just comes together, that sometimes when you're putting the pieces together, there'll be a couple of pieces left out and you're going, oh, wait a minute. I don't know what I'm doing here. That sometimes it just may not be logical. But again, I know that's not a popular take, because you want to make sure these people are employed and have an income and everything. But
maybe they hit a ceiling. I mean, I don't think that's unreasonable. I mean, let's be honest. Braun Strowman is a bit of a one-trick pony,
and he's recently come back anyway. So,
and great. It was cool to see, but let's be honest. I think there's a ceiling there with him in terms of at least my interest in him. I don't know. I don't find him a very compelling character. Maybe that can change, but
it's definitely a conversation that should be made, well, at least with all these talents. And we're gonna see what the ring crew says as well. We're gonna see what we said after this interview with Alan. So let's get back into the interview, and let's see where it goes from there.
No radio? No problem. Stream us live on Sauga960am.ca.
And we're back to Ringside Heat on News Talk Sauga 960 AM. I'm your host, Lex Tan. Of course, you can follow me at Lex Tan Media on social media as well. Follow the show at Ringside_Heat. Joined here by Alan Can of SLTDWrestling.com and his own podcast, Cantastic Wrestle Corner. Follow him on Twitter at The Cantastic, and that's with a K, Alan Can. Thanks for sticking around, my friend.
No problem, Lex. Glad to be here.
And something I'd like to expand upon, as we were starting to talk about in the first segment, is the rumor that WWE or the McMahons might sell WWE to a big conglomerate, maybe like Disney. It feels a little bit fantastical and ridiculous that this would happen. I personally don't see how Vince McMahon would ever give up control of his own company, let alone his kids either.
It's almost too crazy to believe, right? You know, WWE or WWF, they've been an institution in the world of professional wrestling. It's like, you know, their opening promo is WWE forever. Their competition is acknowledged. Yes, WWE is the big one. They're gonna be around forever. So the idea that Vince McMahon, the man whose family has owned this company for generations, would be willing to sell this company is really one of the most craziest rumors that are flying around out there. I know Fightful Select, it's one of the websites I pay attention to. They've been discussing this, and they broke it down in a lot of economic terms. And I guess the one point that I recall them saying is that they have to get their valuation up in order for the company to be viable to be sold. Now, for example, we mentioned Braun Strowman was one of the talent that was let go this week. I heard his contract was actually in the 7 figures. So he was actually getting a hefty chunk of change. When you're talking about a guy who's being paid 7 figures, and, you know, Nick Khan, he's a new financial, I guess, CEO of WWE now. Now he has, as I understand it, Nick Khan, he's not, let's just be clear, it's not Tony Khan from AEW. Nick Khan is a separate person.
Yes.
So Nick Khan, he's managing the financials now of World Wrestling Entertainment. He's looking at this from the financial standpoint. He has, as I understand, no attachment to wrestling whatsoever. So he's looking at this from a numbers perspective. And when you see a performer being paid 7 figures, and just looking at it from the current economic climate, you're not really sure how stable it is. We're not sure if COVID is going to be gone, or is it going to be a lingering long-term thing. So we don't know how stable the economy is. So he's looking at this from the numbers perspective and say, do I need to keep paying a guy 7 figures if we don't really seem to have a clear direction for him right now? So I guess that is one reason why, if you're looking for a reason why Braun Strowman was let go. Now back to your original question, is WWE looking to sell? I heard that this round of layoffs, it's not because WWE is looking to sell. Down the road, it could be, but is it going to be sold to Disney, or I heard?
I remember that.
NBC?
Remember that was
I don't know.
a rumor.
You would have to find a buyer that can cough up a huge amount of change and convince Vince McMahon of all people to let go of this company. Because if Vince McMahon actually decides one day he doesn't want to do this anymore, and he does retire, it's most likely going to fall towards Triple H, Stephanie, and Nick Khan.
And as you mentioned in the previous segment, WWE is public. It's been public since the 90s. I could buy stock right now on my Wealth Simple account if I wanted to. And that's the thing, is with these companies, Disney's gotten so big that Disney's don't even run the company anymore. No Disney family member is involved in the board of the Disney company. It seems like WWE, as a wrestling company, has now gotten so big. Do you think now WWE is getting to a point where does somebody have to specifically run the business so they can focus on making a better product?
This is the long time criticism of fans, that they think Vince McMahon is literally running everything. And to an extent, that is true. But I think in recent months that Vince McMahon is starting to realize that even he cannot run all aspects of his company himself. That's why you bring in a guy like Nick Khan. I've heard Stephanie has been in on the quarterly press calls. So she is starting to sit in on the calls, which she has never done before. So my my idea is that if Vince McMahon does decide to leave rather than, God forbid, pass away one day, which is the only way he probably would leave WWE. Like Stephanie, like she would
Very
not be
common
running the company
sentiment.
herself. I mean, she and like a board of directors were consisting of herself, Nick Khan, and probably some other people who are more business savvy. As for Triple H, I don't think even he would be overseeing all three brands in terms of the creative direction, like
That's
the way
fun.
Vince would be. But I think even with Triple H,
That's fun.
2 out of 3 today for Triple H. By the way,
Two
Shawn
out of
Michaels
three.
has an
But
NXT,
may as well be Triple
but it
H
may as well be
NXT.
3 out of 3.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
close.
Effectively, it's 3 out of 3.
Yeah.
handling all the creative, he would designate people that he can trust. It's just the way that WWE has sort of let go of the talent is just really spurring on the rumor mill. I was speaking to another colleague of mine from SLTD Wrestling, and he has heard of this conspiracy theory
Right.
that
Sweet.
WWE is letting go all of this talent. So companies like AEW would be so enticed to scoop them up that you would eventually bankrupt AEW, so WWE can swoop in and buy AEW.
Wow.
But when you think about it, how ridiculous that is, because when you look at even just the
That's the
recent
word
amount
for
of roster cuts, AEW is not going to pick up all of those people. They might pick up Aleister Black.
They picked up most of them.
They picked up most of those people. Yeah.
They might even pick up Braun Strowman. I don't think they will pick up Ruby Riott. I think
did.
Ruby, for
did.
example, she has a better shot at doing an independent circuit run than just sticking with AEW.
Okay, sorry, but
Lana at
financially,
this point, I don't think even needs to go into wrestling. She can make
I'm sorry. I know he's a friend of the show, but she has a better shot at having a good indie run. Financially, no. Like like AEW would by a country mile be a better decision under any metric.
I mean, look. I mean, again, like they signed them all except for Braun.
Except for Braun.
Even Santana Garrett had a small run in AEW. It wasn't long, but she had a run. She had a very brief run. Now she's back as a coach at the Performance Center. Murphy, Buddy, that is Buddy Murphy, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
He's obviously he's in AEW. Lana eventually signed with AEW. It was not right away.
No, that didn't happen right away.
That took longer
she's
than it
still
probably.
there. She is, right?
I don't think I've seen her lately on TV, but But I mean, let me quickly check it before we continue with the interview here. Like, yeah, right now she says she's with AEW, but
Okay.
yeah, I mean, like she was with Andrade, but then Andrade jump ship.
He came back, yeah.
Right, and then Alana had the infection on the finger,
Oh,
which
yeah.
which was really scary. So from there, I don't I don't know what. Obviously, the separation with Rusev happened as well. So I don't know if that all came into the picture. But no, long story short, no, I guess so. I'm not 100% positive on that.
Okay.
social media.
Exactly.
Like she could, like on her TikTok and Instagram, like she must be like fielding a gazillion of calls from like people looking to like do marketing deals with her once her 90+ day no compete is up.
And
So-
Miro can just handle the wrestling.
Yeah, so like that idea that like WWE is shedding all their talent so their competition can bankrupt themselves by scooping them up is a little bit out there, but I don't think that is what's happening. But this is a great opportunity for like all these other companies. This is the biggest free agent pool that has existed in wrestling in recent memory. But as to your original question, whether WWE is looking to sell, I don't think anytime soon. If we have this conversation and maybe 2 or 3 years later, maybe.
Well, that's the thing, is that like the idea of Vince McMahon selling the company is that ridiculous that there are so many other ridiculous theories, just like the bankrupting AEW conspiracy tinfoil hat theory that you're putting through. But hey, as once Vince McMahon said, I'm probably never going to die. So he's going to be in charge for quite a while still. But thank you, Alan, for being on the show today. And hey, I would love to have you back again.
Yeah, thank you, Lex. And let me just say, it's been great to be on this show and And if you don't mind me just plugging a small thing, SLDD podcast, like a roundtable format. We might be doing an episode coming up where we talk about movies about wrestling or wrestlers who have gone on to done movies at SLTD Wrestling
Never
on
heard of
Twitter
that.
and Instagram and on Facebook. Look up for my
Wrestlers going to
podcast,
do
Fantastic
movies.
Wrestle Corner,
What?
on Google, Spotify, and Anchor. Thanks a lot.
And when we return, we'll bring in the ring crew to talk a little bit more about AEW Double or Nothing and the WWE releases. All this and more, Ringside Heat, Newstalk Saga 960 AM.
Stream us live at saga960am.ca.
And welcome back to Ringside Heat on Newstalk Saga 960 AM. I'm Lex Tan. Remember, you can get in touch with us here at the show at Ringside_Heat on Twitter, on Instagram, on Snapchat, and TikTok, and on Facebook.com/Ringside Heat. And a delight this week. We've got the entire ring crew together, so let's quickly go around the horn and introduce the crew. Educator and musician, follow him at John Dawson Music, Mr. John Dawson. Twitch streamer at MKD_CE04. Mark Farinas, Twitch streamer at Risen72. Colin Dodge, wrestling memorabilia collector at Coco Collects, Chico Nuguid, and from Under the Middle Rope podcast at Taboada 93, Jose Taboada. Welcome to the show, dudes. I'm glad to have us all back together.
Oh, it's good to be back, Lex. It's always I always get sad when I'm away with you guys, from you guys. So it's nice to be reunited. Thank you.
No worries, and glad to have all of us together here again. And the big story that we definitely need to talk about this week is the WWE releasing a whole bunch of their big names, especially and big names that were actually getting a good build as well too. And I just need to know, what are you guys feeling about all of these releases right now?
Did he mention me in the
I feel
going around a horn?
Yeah, you were the first one.
I was the first one.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Why would he not?
That was about to be my question. I must have zoned out for a second and I didn't hear my name.
No, you're there. You're there.
Okay.
Like I've been one of the more outspoken on Twitter. Like I'm not gonna sit here and say that it's fun. It's obviously unfortunate. You know, I mean, just aside from the wrestling impact, you never want to hear anybody losing their job. Never. There's shock with Aleister Black for sure, but especially because he had the angle where he attacked Big E after Friday Night SmackDown last week, and it looked like, and they had the vignettes for him, and it looked like they were going somewhere, and then it didn't work. But I have to say that it's nice to see on social media that it looks like they're okay with it. Or, I mean, obviously it's not easy, but I mean, I look at Aleister Black, who went on Twitch through his wife's Twitch account, Thea, saying how there was a lot of positive experiences. He was close with Vince. They just admitted that it was just budget cut. So I appreciate that, and that's why I think that I can't. It's tough for me to get extremely frustrated or extremely heated, knowing that when you have cases like Aleister Black who say, you know what, it happens, and I'm just ready for my next step. I just find it tough to, again, just to be completely angry or just try to really dig in and speculate what happened. I don't just think it's our place. And if you have examples like Aleister Black or Braun Strowman who's tweeting, thankfully opportunity, same with Lana, et cetera. And I just think that it's something that should be respected as opposed to just being completely angry. But that's my take.
Since Jose brought his 2 cents about it too, I'm going to bring my 2 cents about it as well. Did the WWE a couple of weeks ago tell all their fans that they're going to be going back on the road?
Boy, he kind of went a guns a-blazing as if I said something illegal there. We're all going to get to our 2 cents, buddy. We're going to get there. Don't worry. Everybody has a chance to share. That's what the point of the discussion was.
It was an interesting posture to take off.
That's just the way that he went off on that. I'm going, wait a minute, hold on. I just elected to go first.
I'm not 100% sure that was the intent, but yeah, the wording sounds.
The word, yeah, of course,
sounds whatever. Yeah, but
the wording, it's like okay, Mark, don't worry, Mark. It's your time to shine. It's your time to shine. Here we go.
He was
live
excited.
Shows. Now I kind of feel sorry for those people now because. Now they're not going to be able to see Braun Strowman or Aleister Black on live shows in their hometown. It's very unfortunate for these fans. They spend their hard-earned money just to finally see WWE back on the road now. It's just so unfortunate for all these wrestlers that this is now becoming a thing now, and it's just wasted talent from the WWE, bringing them in, and now This is like the third time now that we had to endure this kind of spot. I mean, I thought Ed and Verk getting released, Jimmy Smith coming in, that was going to be it. And now we get all this crap going on. So I'm really sorry for all these wrestlers right now. I'm really sorry for Braun, Alistair, Ruby, and all of them. You know, good luck in trying to find on the indie scene. To me, I'm just very heated about it.
Yes, it's unfortunate that Alistair Black won't be on the road with WWE. It's
again the way he composed himself there after what I said almost is like you have to be angry. And again, I was frustrated. I did say that it's not fun. It's not it wasn't a fun thing to see. And I think again, to your point that you said earlier in the episode today, John, is that thank God for an AEW in this perspective, right? And so it's not like there's like other opportunities for these individuals, right? It's out there. They're out there.
I'm also like, again, I'm not, to Mark's, I see what Mark's saying. He's clearly very hot about it.
Of course.
But I don't know that if I were buying tickets to a house show that I was going to be like, I can't wait to see Alistair Black.
That's what I'm saying, right? Yeah, I mean, yes, there are.
I'm not 100% sure there.
I mean, look, there are fans of these individuals. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah, but
of course, right? You're gonna get like a handful, but
I don't think these were not the top guys, or they never would have been let go.
Yeah, I think I would say that if Cody was released again, which I don't want to ever think about that, to be honest with you, but
yeah, like if Jey Uso got let go, tomorrow, God forbid, people would be rioting. Be like, I want to see main event Jey Uso at the house show. Then blah blah blah. Anyway.
Yahoo!
Fortunate that Braun Strowman won't be on the road with WWE when they quote unquote go home. But the thing is, they still have a whole bevy of other stars. Look at Bianca Belair, the SmackDown Women's Champion. Bayley tearing it up as well. Alexa Bliss in the playground, just as well. Every single segment that hits. Roman Reigns, for crying out loud. That guy is the guy that's like holding the fort down for the entire company right now. Like, we got to acknowledge that too. But so I don't think the lack of superstars.
Were we acknowledging yet?
Here, but
100%.
Okay,
we should have. We should be. Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, it must have been.
What other feelings do you guys have about this though? Because yes, Colin, go ahead.
When these kind of things happen, I always like to try to think of maybe like a top level, well, maybe not top level, but just kind of theories of why this kind of thing might be happening. So I know there's been the rumor that NBC is going to buy WWE because they've taken over the network and all that kind of thing. So I'm wondering if these layoffs could be, well, NBC doesn't want to work with maybe Alistair Black's new gimmick that was started. So, a Dark Father kind of thing. Maybe that's not a direction NBC wants to have on their show. How much control are they going to have over creative if they buy WWE? So that could be it. It could also be very simply, yes, budget cuts, but let's continue to shock the system, for lack of a better description, with big releases and maybe get creative going. If these kind of easy to write, get these hand segments aren't available anymore, they got to think harder about the next on the roster who's going to have the spot now, because these ones have left.
I think Jimmy Corderas in his ref and rant, I don't know if it was today or yesterday, and I hope you'll pardon me if I'm paraphrasing him, but my takeaway was he said something to the effect of, once again, the business of the business is getting in the way of our enjoyment of the business we love. It does kind of make me, stop and think, like, speculation is a fun thought experiment, but at the end of the day, who knows what was behind this? The emotions are very real. Ruby Riott, her Twitter exchanges with Liv Morgan were very heartfelt. There were some real people affected in a very real way. In terms of the end game here, who knows? A bunch of people are no longer with WWE. And, as we've seen year after year, decade after decade, the company still moves on and does what it does. And these things continue to happen, and they will continue to happen. Is it a portend of things to come? Possibly. Or it could just be COVID absolutely rocked this company and they got a big stack of contracts and they're trying to find a way to keep it less expensive. It could be that simple. I don't know. it's just hard to see people no longer there that we grew accustomed to. But at the end of the day, I just want to enjoy the product, whatever it is. I'm not in the boardrooms. I'm not in the conversations. There's a lot of speculation we can do, but it gets exhausting to constantly revisit those things sometimes. It's just like, let's just enjoy the product. You know, it is what it is. It's sad. I'm sorry for the people. That's the real thing. I'm sorry for the people who are hurt by this.
What I do understand, though, and what I do like about, as Jose, just to bring back to what Jose was saying earlier, a lot of classy things were said and a lot of classy things were communicated by the talent that was let go, as opposed to different times in the past where it was very, very bitter. And it's nice to see that there is a peace with some of these guys, especially with Aleister Black. Even with Tom Phillips, he released a statement earlier yesterday saying, how thankful he was to have worked for 9 years in the WWE. So at least there is a little bit of that peace going on, and maybe it is a peace offering to Vince McMahon. So maybe one day they could come back. That's just my speculation on it. But Chico, what kind of speculation do you have about this?
Yeah, I've heard a lot of what you guys have said, and including weaving in what Jimmy Cordero said in his ref and rant. I caught myself in that same heated emotions thing for a few days, just because I think I listened to social media too much at the outset of it. But then I also came to that similar resolution of, wait a minute. When I first got to appreciate pro wrestling, I didn't have all of these news websites reporting to me about who's even on the payroll.
It's funny here.
All I knew was that
when I was listening to my comments, it sounds like I'm shutting down the conversation with us, and I'm like, if I feel kind of bad, but I know that's not just what Chico said. I remember the social media fatigue from this, and I think it just seemed like everybody was talking about it, and I got tired of the chatter. And I think just like that is one of those things that's just like, guys, enough. Like, we don't know, nobody's in that boardroom, you know what I mean?
I think that's just in general with any social media conversation.
Oh yeah, it's
like
it's just always fatiguing.
Look, here's an example, and I don't want to bring it up, but it hurts the soul anyways. At the time of this recording, last night was another awful Game 7 loss for the Toronto Maple Leafs. Tough,
yes,
tough, absolutely tough. Yes. I cried, but you see. I mean, yes, the memes are left and right. And again, the Leafs deserve every meme. I think a true Leafs fan will say, yes, please bring on the memes. Please make fun of us. But then you have like that fan base that's just so angry and so bitter and so frustrated that even then, to me, it's like, boy, like I share the same sentiments, but I don't know if I want to keep seeing the same sentiments because I think I'm just so done with the frustrations, right? Because in this case, because of how often it happens to the damn Leafs, that you're just like,
well, that's my point. Like, that makes sense, right? Like, we're talking, this is the Leafs, and you really only understand being a Leaf fan only if you live in Toronto. Like, this is a passionate fan base,
but wrestling's passionate too.
No, I understand that, but it's like it's keep it in check. It's like is the anger over Braun Strowman? I have a hard time equating, Leafs passion versus Braun Strowman passion.
Of course,
this is just a bunch of people on social media who want to have an opinion, and it's like, what are you passionate about? Wrestlers losing their jobs? I don't understand I don't understand what the trigger is. I didn't understand the. I get it with Leaf fans. This cuts deep, like very deep.
Right. Oh yeah.
But yeah, it's just like, what are we so hot about? I mean,
like the releases? Or are you hot about that?
Yeah, you hot about the releases?
Are
you hot about them losing a job? Are you legitimately hot that Ruby Riot's not in WWE? What is it? What are you just trying to find something to talk about?
Fair.
Anyway.
I don't know. Skinner was facing Bret Hart on Superstars. I didn't know who was actually on the payroll. Okay, that goes to show you how far back I go, or even further back than that. I kind of smacked myself down in my head, and I said, "Wait, pump the brakes, dude. Don't get too heated about this. Like, it's a business, and we all know that, just like you guys have been saying." What did I catch myself saying the other?
All hail Chico saying something reasonable.
Chico
135 episodes. And he said something reasonable, folks. This is like finding a needle in a haystack.
Jose is just busting chops. Chico says a lot of beautiful and reasonable things.
What?
Other day that sometimes pro wrestling careers don't just happen in one company or even in one tenure. I mean, Eddie Guerrero, we know, the late Eddie Guerrero, took a bumpy, multifaceted road to the legendary status that he has achieved. He was fired, and that was heartbreaking for him and his fans at the time, but he earned redemption and good graces and got back in, and it became this fantastic redemption story. I kind of had to, again, like I said, smack myself down in my own head. These people are all right. They said they're okay. They said everything's cool. It might have been a shock at the outset, but they're going to land on their feet. It's 2021. It's not as rough going as things used to be. There are many more opportunities to be creative and be productive in this day and age. So I'm optimistic for them now that I remembered, that I can just be a fan and enjoy the on-air product, like John said. But don't stop and start an Aleister Black storyline. That's probably my one big gripe about this whole thing.
That's the worst thing that could ever happen to that storyline. He came in, he does a run-in, he doesn't say anything.
And no payoff. This
Exactly.
thing
I'm not going to
That's
pick up Mark, but I just have to point Mark's comment there is funny. He's like, that's the worst thing that could happen to that storyline. Getting fired would very much count as the worst thing that could happen to a storyline. Yeah, it was 100% correct.
Man. Oh my goodness! Hey, what happened to that storyline? I don't know, man. The storyline peaked. What happened? He got fired.
He got fired. That's pretty much as bad as it gets. Yep.
It's the
That's
pinnacle
funny.
of it. Yeah.
It's frustrating as a fan who's put in decades of investment, when things like this happen. That's
my goodness, Chico, that could have been a great storyline. Him and Big E, Hell in a Cell. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I was excited for that. Yeah.
Aleister Black could have factored way into the Intercontinental Championship picture for months.
Yeah.
Easily. Yeah.
And his Dark Father gimmick kind of, sorry to cut you off there. His Dark Father gimmick kind of lends itself to the wackiness of calling a belt a Universal Championship as well. So I think he could have been a contender eventually. Maybe he will be.
And this seems to be an issue that we as fans are going to be having to revisit over and over again during our wrestling fandom. But we got to leave it at that for now. We're going to take the break, and we'll be back with more with the Ring Crew on Ringside Heat, Newstalk Sauga 960 AM.
No radio? No problem. Stream us live on sauga960am.ca.
And welcome back to Ringside Heat on Newstalk Sauga 960 AM. This is Lex Tan, and we got the Ring Crew at John Dawson Music, John Dawson, at MKD_CE04, Mark Farinas, at Risen72, Colin Dodge, at Coco Collects, Chico Nuguid, and at Taboada 93, Jose Taboada. Right now, we got to talk about AEW Double or
What? How'd you say that, Lex? Hold on.
Yeah.
Well, hold on.
At John Dawson Music, John Dawson, at MKD_CE04, Mark Farinas, at Risen72, Colin Dodge, at Coco Collects, Chico Nuguid, and at Taboada 93, Jose Taboada.
Taboada?
Yes, he tripped over the top. Yes.
How did you mess up the name when he just said it like a millisecond before?
He's just messing with you. That's
Throw
what's
me
happening.
a bone here, 10. How does that happen? I laugh because this is a common theme in my life. People mispronouncing my last name, and it is a hoot. Even to the point where a friend of mine got a cameo for me for my 30th birthday from Tony Chimmel. He got Tony Chimmel to do me a happy birthday cameo, and Tony Chimmel said Jose Taboada. He added an R. So I laugh, I chuckle.
I can tell you that is an experience I have never had. John Dawson. Very few people mess that one up. They might mess up spelling on occasion.
How do you mess up the spelling?
Jon.
Oh, for John. Oh, for your
yeah.
Okay, all right.
But then last name I might get, Lawson. Might get that. But generally speaking,
boy,
not much of a problem.
Must be thrilling.
No, it's not because it's just there's a pile of John Dawsons in the world, and I don't stand out among them, and it's horrible. You don't have a sense of individual identity.
Yeah, I can kind of say that, but then again, my last wing is thrown around like wildfire, so it can be funny.
Right now, we got to talk about AEW Double or Nothing. What do you guys think of it? How did it come off to you guys? What do you feel?
It was one of my favorite pay-per-views from AEW of all time. I thought it was incredible from start to finish. I didn't find a dull moment. If I had to pick one, it was maybe the Cody Rhodes Anthony Ogogo match, but even then it wasn't too bad. I thought the event, like I said, overall was one of the best things that AEW put on screen. I'm happy for Mark Henry, who had his big debut and had his big moment. Orange Cassidy stood out to me. I thought Orange Cassidy was amazing in his match, and I hope to see him in those opportunities a bit more often. I didn't anticipate Orange to win, but nonetheless, I'm happy that he got that opportunity because he shows that he can, despite what a lot of people have opinions on. As for the Stadium Stampede, I thought it was great, but I didn't think it was as good as last year, and I knew last year was going to be hard to top with this quirks, with this insanity, and I felt like they were trying to find that niche again, but just felt like it felt like they ran out of ideas for some reason, which is weird because it's a big stadium.
One of the things I would have to say actually about the end of the AEW pay-per-view, I really liked, I believe Chico pointed this out off the air, that the Inner Circle, when they won the match and they celebrated in the ring, they allowed the crowd to be the stars and close out the show by singing Judas.
Yes.
And I think that was one of the best things that I saw of that pay-per-view, is just thanking the fans for their patience in coming back as well.
Yeah,
Mark.
I got Fozzie's Judas all on my playlist, and I always play that song whenever I'm out for a bike and working out. But if in a fan's perspective, Jose and Lex, looking at all those fans on Sunday night, I felt like, oh my goodness, I just want to be in that crowd. But my favorite match of the night is 3 letters. Dr. Britt Baker, DMD. She got her title win. She got a full circle, and at the very end, she hugged Tony Schiavone. You know, she's getting this major push now in AEW, and I hope it's going to last for a long time. Awesome to watch on Sunday night. Loved it.
And what I loved about as well, when Britt Baker did hug Tony Schiavone, and you could read Tony Schiavone's lips, he said, "Britt, I'm so proud of you." And that was very, very heartwarming. Ringside Heat, I'm your host, Lex Tan. I'm with the Ring Crew. We're talking about AEW Double or Nothing. Who wants the next word on this? Colin.
I really enjoyed that pay-per-view as well. There was a ton of things that there was a lot to like. Going back, of course, to the little things, Young Bucks versus Mock and Kingston. Right in the middle of the match, they did a nice little making fun of the Shield, which was brilliant. If it was quick, it's easy to miss it. With the Casino Battle Royale, how well Christian did to really push that, outwork everyone. But it ended up being the feel-good moment of the night with Jungle Boy winning. Miro versus Lance Archer, I was surprisingly entertained by that. I figured it was just going to be the regular match, 2 big guys, but they worked really well together, and of course they could move. Sting looked great. The championship match, it did exactly what I wanted. It solidified Kenny Omega, his supremacy, reminded everybody how good Pac was or is, and it put Orange Cassidy in the title position or in the conversation. The only thing I felt it kind of took the wind out of my sails was there was some sloppiness in the Shida and Britt Baker match that kind of, it deflated me a little bit, but the Shida was great in that match. The vicious side came out that I don't think I've ever seen in any of her other matches. So that looked great there. The ending was great. It was still, glad Britt Baker won. It was an amazing build-up with that program. There was just a lot to like about this pay-per-view. I was very impressed, very happy with it.
Yeah, top to bottom, I think this was just really solid. Moxley and Kingston versus the callbacks. I mean, Young Bucks. Had a lot of intensity to it. Really enjoyed it. I know what you're saying, Colin. There, it felt like there were a few spots in the Baker Shida match that just didn't come off quite the way they wanted. I wouldn't say they were botched, just not quite there. But the outcome is inarguable. I think that was really, the way that should have gone. Alan and Sting, really enjoyed that story. I like the mentor-mentee kind of thing. I just Sting, come on. He looks great. for who he is and where he's at. I think the triple threat is the runaway, match of the show. I love Omega calling for belts like Austin used to call for beers. Like that cracked me up. I was just thought that was beautiful.
That was fantastic.
That was really good.
He's not called a belt collector for nothing, right? Or the best.
Just like I got one more. I mean, come on, that's so good. Such a great way to use that thing he's got, right? Inner Circle and Pinnacle, Guevara his parkour stuff really sort of shone for me. There was a couple moments he had. I was like, wow, I haven't quite seen that before. The Jericho and MJF stuff was entertaining. There's one point where he launched him off of an office chair over a railing. Which is just funny. And, getting the football, all that. It was very entertaining. It feels to me like there is, at least in that particular program, there are a lot of Attitude Era WWE sprinklings in the way they've done this. And I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm a mark for the Attitude Era. It's just that reinforced that. Like that was something you would have seen in the late 90s pay-per-view in WWE. That a lot of the spots, a lot of the kind of gimmicky things. I didn't hate it. It just was something I've noticed, and it's happened now a few times, I think, with that particular program. So, but overall, it was highly enjoyable. Really great work. They should be very proud.
I totally agree, John. Top to bottom, what a great show. It was the first AEW pay-per-view in front of a full crowd, and you could feel that right from the get-go. The vibe was electric, and it was what would JR call it back then? It was palpable how electric the evening was live. It just came through the screen. Top to bottom, it was great. I mean, I wasn't a big fan of putting Cage and Page, or one of the Cages and one of the Pages, in AEW as the opener of the main show, because we saw 2 matches already on Dynamite, or one, whatever, previous to it, and it didn't impress me that much. However, the pay-per-view version was a good opener because it progressed the whole Brian Cage causing a bit of disturbance in the Team Taz Force storyline. So it kind of reinforced that, and so it progressed something. It ended up being a good opener for what it was. Structurally, the show was just, it built well. It had a lot of good highlights. It had a lot of good moments, including what Colin referred to as the feel-good moment of the night with Christian Cage and Jungle Boy. It had that good story structure, from exposition to rising action to climax, and then even a bit of a denouement. It kind of had a good story structure, which is a lot of what I look for in a pay-per-view show. You don't have time to build it up like a Raw or SmackDown where they give you the weekly ingredients that lead to this big gumbo. Like, you just have to have good action that makes sense. And just like Lex mentioned, that closing with the fans singing along, never expected that to close the show, but it made total sense because it is the first show with fans fully back. It was beautiful. It was a good ending to a great night.
Ringside Heat on Newstalk Sauga 960. Just got a few more minutes before we got to end the show, but I do want to ask you guys a quick question, and I think something this would be elaborated on in a future segment. We see AEW and the things that they're doing really well and doing right as well. I mean, like, they're not a perfect company or anything like that, but being that they've become a credible company in such a short period of time, I'm just wondering, what do you guys think would be 1 or 2 reasons why AEW is having the success they're having right now, and TNA, as great as their product was at times, and now Impact Wrestling, they've got their own 2 feet going again. What's making things successful at AEW that TNA didn't have before?
I want to say that it's a mix of great booking and great exposure. Social media is a bigger player in the game than it ever was in history, and
I was just about to. I was gonna pause this and say I think it's exposure, and I was like, no, let
me see what I say.
Let me play this out. Oh, Jose, you so smart.
Well, it's true.
So as soon as you set something up, then you can immediately share it and quickly spread it across like wildfire on social media. And then when it comes to the actual talent, they're focusing on themselves, and they want to stand out themselves, as opposed to, let me see how we can try to be as good as WWE. Like, they know WWE exists. AEW just wants to be them, and that's fine. And they're letting their talent be like express themselves freely on the mic. express themselves freely in the ring. And so all of that can be combined to some great product. But I'm going to mainly lean on the exposure that AEW has and the resources that AEW has, because obviously when you have the father of Tony Khan, who's the owner of the NFL's Jacksonville Jaguars, that's a big start on its own. So I'm going to say exposure.
I think to that point, timing. It's just with anything in so many areas of entertainment, there's just something about timing. This was the time for something like an AEW. And we saw that with the All In pay-per-view. Once that was that spark, that was that big bang, almost like it was saying there is definitely a desire for an alternative. I don't know that TNA had that same momentum or even that same sort of organic desire the way we see it with what's happening with AEW. They seem to be this sort of point, this convergence, but they're definitely this viable alternative when there needed to be an alternative. I think it's very similar to when WCW just sort of showed up out of nowhere. Not out of nowhere. We all know WCW in some form had always been around, but the way it blew up in the 90s was very different. And it was just right at that moment when Bischoff was there and the whole Monday Night Wars ignited. I feel like there's just a timing thing. People need an AEW right now in a way that maybe we didn't need a TNA, 10 years ago, whatever it was.
When AEW did launch a couple of years ago, I think their first signing Cody, his first signing was Chris Jericho. Everybody was looking up on Chris Jericho as like one of the big stars on AEW, but also as a mentor as well. It just didn't seem right when back at TNA in the early 2000s, how they were just running things. Like they weren't using a lot of old talent except for AJ. And then it got more and more, and it just got way more confusing for me. So it was just hard for me to keep up. And it's like trying to compete as well against WWE. So luckily right now for AEW, it's sitting in its right place right now. It's in a good position on year number 2. And I hope it really builds on. Great start for them.
I'm going to say that John was right about the fortuitous timing. I think there was a lot of things that had to go perfectly right for something like an AEW to start off so successfully and to be in a good position to succeed. My main 2 points that I see in my head comes down to 2 things for me. One is resources. Money talks. If TNA had more money that they could play around with, there's a chance they could have stuck around a bit longer. But then it factors into the second thing that I think is crucial in the differences between AEW and TNA successes. From what I would hear, I think Dixie Carter was more into doing Dixie Carter things versus Tony Khan has his ears and nose to the ground constantly. He's out there, he's getting the pulse of the industry, and he's now using it to steer his ship with a balanced fan service approach while at the same time maintaining necessary time-honored traditions.
Yeah, for me with TNA and Impact, it seemed they were always rebranding, new management, new this or that every 3 to 5 years. I mean, the last time I really paid attention was the height of the X Division with like AJ Styles and Christopher Daniels, and then all of a sudden Ric Flair and Mick Foley are in there, and it's something completely different where A&E shows up. They're big, they're shiny, they're brand new. They've got Chris Jericho, they've got Kenny Omega, and it's just they seem to have a clear vision. It's evolving, but it's still a clear vision that they're shooting for and I really don't see a lot of deviation. I see growth, but not deviation to what that vision is from when they started.
And we got to leave it at that. But thank you to the ring crew, Chico, John, Mark, Colin, and Jose for being on the show this week. And thank you for tuning in and listening to this episode of Ringside Heat. We'll be back with more wrestling talk next week at 9 o'clock on Sauga 960 AM. Don't you dare miss it. Talk to you soon.
Okay. I also feel like, and I don't know if this is controversial or not, but I also feel like AEW benefited from WWE just being absolutely terrible in 2018.
Yeah.
There's just brutal, just brutal programming that I sat through and endured, and In AEW, I guess Tony Khan just saw, damn, this is my chance, and they nailed it. They struck, and yeah,
I wonder what I wonder what changed, because I feel like I had yet to develop the position that I currently hold, which is that they exist in a negative space. So I'm curious to know how that changes in me. Because I think I was really giving them the benefit of the doubt here.
you the first 6 episodes, 1,000%.
Yeah, and I wonder what happened. I'm curious
I
to find
I
that out.
I kind of I want to say maybe the fandom became, as fans came back, maybe it got more quote unquote
Yeah,
toxic for you, or
maybe.
that's the very, very good point. Very good.
I know the Punk return, ironically, because I'm such a fan of what he's doing now, but the Punk return in AEW, I was not happy about that.
I was great to see Punk in a wrestling environment again, but I knew selfishly I wanted it to be in WWE, but AEW was the right spot. But at the same time, we don't get the happy Punk and the more like, relieved Punk if it wasn't for AEW. Again, ironically, we needed that to unfold to get the
For
Punk that we
sure.
have today. So
Yeah, I don't know. It seems like, and something, it may not even have just been me, but something happened somewhere. It could have been that Tony Khan maybe wasn't, as vocal as he's become. I don't know. I'd be curious to see how that story. Well, I'm following all these little threads over the last 3 years, and I'm curious to see how they tease out. Because as you're living through it, you don't really put those connections together. I'm like, this is interesting. What changes here? It could be something AEW did themselves. I don't know. I'm curious about that, because what I listen to now, and I don't mean to just focus on me here, but I think certainly with all of us, I mean, let's just juxtapose Lex's recent rant,
it was a rant.
versus what the kind of this conversation. It seems to me this is a different AEW. This is an AEW we are all cheering for. We're all pulling for, right? We're saying not great. I may not watch it all the time, but I think unanimously we are all solidly behind this product succeeding. It's interesting.
A lot to unfold as the weeks go by. And speaking of as the weeks
Yeah.
go by, our next episode for next Tuesday, as we enter our 4th week of doing Ringside Heat Wayback, we're going to look at episodes 7 and 8. So this Tuesday, episode 7, Take a Look at Me Now. The Ring Crew reviews Impact Wrestling Against All Odds. We reviewed an Impact pay-per-view. What? Tease up NXT TakeOver in your house, and chatting about Bret Hart and a variety of topics in the All You Can Heat segment.
I don't even know what that means.
I definitely know it has not been, that term has not been used in
but now
recent memory. If All You
now I
Can
kind of want
Heat.
it again. I don't even
Well,
remember that. And can I tell you something? I do not remember watching this pay-per-view.
Double or Nothing?
AEW. I do not remember
Same.
watching that.
You know what's funny? Like when I saw the bio for episode 6, and I'm like, Double or Nothing. I'm like, okay, it obviously had a stadium stampede, but is that the one that I really, really enjoyed, or was this the one that I thought was not the best? And of course, my 2021 self proved that to me in 2024, because I thought that the first stadium stampede was. I had a feeling that this Double or Nothing, I'm like, I don't think this is the stadium stampede that I liked, and it was true.
I don't even remember. I don't remember watching it, but yeah, All You Can Heat.
All You Can Heat. And then episode 8 for next Thursday, in a week today. There's a new sheriff in town. The Ringside Heat Ring Crew discusses Samoa Joe's return to the WWE, the fandom and social media, and the recent WWE pay-per-views, NXT Takeover in your house, and Hell in a Cell. So we got a very, very busy June from what it seems with pay-per-views.
Cool.
But yeah, it looks like this Tuesday, All You Can Heat.
I'm looking forward to that.
We'll find out what that means. So for John Dawson, I am Jose Taboada. Thank you so much for listening, and we will see you guys next week. Take care.